Hello, everybody. My name's Isaiah, and today I want to talk a bit about Lorne and how trolling has ultimately affected profoundly his reality. Now, we all know Lorne is probably one of the most trolled people on the internet. Um, and when I say that, I don't mean it in that, you see people get videos made about them online. Um, and they get like a million views. Pornography, it doesn't reach a million people. It's a very niche community, and I guess that's one of the things that kind of benefits Lorne in that its outreach doesn't reach beyond that of this small community. If you don't know what To Catch a Predator is, you're not going to be scrolling through Facebook or something and see Lorne. Okay, it's not something like that. You have to dig deep into YouTube, into predators, and kind of do a bit of research before you find out who Lorne is. It's not something you can just stumble across on Lad Bible or Unilad or all these Facebook groups, which is where a lot of people get trolled and made fun of. So when you think of it that way, he's not necessarily the most trolled person in terms of breadth and um, the actual number of people that know about him and troll about him, but the consistency and, it's a very kind of, although it's small, it's kind of a dense community. There's a lot of people who continually put time into it, um, that make videos about him, that watch it, and ultimately it's been nearly 10 years since it happened, the sting. There aren't many people who get trolled for that long, especially after it's happened. Um, Most people who do get trolled, it dies down in like only a few weeks or sometimes a month or two. I'll go through my Facebook notifications I'll scroll down through videos I've saved or things people have tagged me in, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this guy, this idiot here, a video about someone posted online, but you forget about it. Lorne, it's been 10 years and we still make fun and joke about him and troll him. Excuse me. Now, back to Lorne's reality and how trolling has affected it. Lorne, Lorne has been catfished by Amanda James, Kayla, Amber, Michelle Simpson, and now Ramona. And this video will eventually get to what my opinions are of Ramona. But, the long story short, I do think she is trolling, but I'm still on the fence. I'm 50-50. I'm not 51% convinced she's trolling. Half. I'm about half. I think she's 50% trolling. Um, that just could mean she's a very good troll. And I would not be surprised if she is trolling and she has no feelings whatsoever and she's trying to extract something from him. Now, Amber was a very good troll when she first made contact with Lorne. Her ultimate goal was to try and get that Holy Grail footage, the uncut Lorne footage, and she got it. And, she probably had to kiss ass and be extra nice to get it from him, which she did. And once she had it, she started to, troll him really hard, be a bit meaner, make a few funny phone calls. And ultimately, she went her separate ways and spent less time talking to him. But Ramona, she's still talking to him. It's been, what, 8 months? She said she started in November. And there are a lot of phone calls she's made with Lorne that aren't even recorded. We've only got 2 hours of phone calls. she's made claims that there were calls where Lorne proposed to her. Um, like every day, Lorne would text her, and she replies. She's put a lot of effort into this, okay, and really all that's come from it is 2 hours of calls. Now I know that Ramona probably has to put in that amount of time to get information out on Kayla, on the sting, but for that amount of effort, the reward, in my opinion, was fairly minimum. Now, that's from her standpoint. From my point of view, like, I don't really care how much effort she's put in. These 2 hour, 3 hour calls have been produced about Lorne, talking about him being a fucking sex offender. I'm not a sex offender. Like, that was brilliant. I enjoyed that. Thank you, Ramona, for doing that. But it's just, I can't believe you went to this extent. 8 months of probably talking every day, calling most days. Amber, I'm 100% sure, did not go through that amount of effort. She spoke to him for a little bit, but she said she's married, she's got children. She'd call him, not that often. There were probably weeks where she called him, every day and was trolling him, getting calls, but then she probably didn't talk to him for like 2-3 weeks at a time after that. So Ember is a unique situation. She got the Holy Grail off him. Nathaniel gave her a lot of shit for being a pedophile sympathizer when in fact she was just trying to get the Holy Grail. I don't know why Nathaniel did not see that. It was quite obvious at the time. It was a bit frustrating, to be honest, but each to their own. And I just want to get to this whole idea and theory that trolling someone like this now, kind of like what Ramona is doing, may actually be doing more good than bad. Because ultimately, when you're trolling someone, it's bad, okay? Any way you look at it, even just a phone prank, you're making fun of someone, it's going online, it's doing harm, one way or another. Not physical, maybe not even mental, but to their image, maybe it might be doing a bit of harm. Now, Lorne has nothing in his life. He lives in a trailer. Supposedly, some relative of his has just died, and Lorne is, I think, taking ownership of the trailer. So he's got a little thing going for him. Sorry for the person dying, but so he's got something going for him, but he's got nothing going for him, and yet he does have something in the sense of a relationship. Now, the relationship is fake, but it's giving Lorne hope. It's giving him happiness, even though he's oblivious to it. If you've ever heard the phrase, ignorance is bliss, Lorne's happy. He's got a 23, 25-year-old female who cares about him, he believes. I know the phone calls do seem upsetting to him. He does, cry in most of the calls. But I mean, a lot of relationships do have arguments where the couples fight, accuse each other of things. I mean, it's not good. And most of the time it could lead to a breakup. But I mean, that's how relationships work. You only get stronger by going through pain and adversity. So, yeah, but in the end, I feel like it's doing more good for Lorne because he's got something to live for. He's got a girl. He could meet her. It's kind of pushing him on, edging, like keeping him going. He's at work. He just like with the whole chat log with Kayla. He said he was working, thinking of Kayla. When he was at the karaoke bar, he was thinking of Kayla. Kayla was giving him a reason to move on and keep going with life. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't want Lorne to feel good. I don't want him to be happy. Like, that sounds pretty harsh, actually. But I don't want someone from the community to make him happy. I mean, like, if he finds his own girlfriend, whatever, like, good on him. But, like, he did try to do something terrible. And the fact that someone from the community is kind of giving him, that sense of happiness and meaning to life just doesn't sit well with me. I don't want him to feel that way from someone in the community. It's just another example is with Stanley Kendall. And for those of you who haven't listened to the Stanley Kendall calls, I highly recommend it. They're hilarious. Crestfallen has a role in it. Joey Jeremiah, Amber. I believe someone else may have a role. I don't know who does Derek. It might be Mike V. If I'm forgetting someone, I'm extremely sorry. But basically, if you haven't watched it by now, turn off this video now and go watch some of the videos on Thirsty Daddy TCAP channel and Ember's channel. But a basic synopsis is Joey plays Pete, who reached out to Stanley. And Pete's a lawyer who has homosexual tendencies. He's married to Amber, who's his wife. They have a son called Derek. And one way or another, Amber, the wife, finds out about Stanley and Pete, and they have to break it off after a few fights where I think Stanley was talking to a kid on Facebook chat or something and still sending penis pics and videos and whatever. And Stanley apparently hacked that Facebook of the kid and saw the videos. And one way or another, they broke up. Stanley meets another guy who claims to be his son, Rick, played by Crestfallen. Crestfallen has a son, Paul, who's slightly autistic and is played by Amber. So hence he's the grandson of this Stanley guy. And Stanley's all intrigued by it. He's enthusiastic, even though he went through some hardships with the breakup with Pete. And, there are arguments, and I don't want to give too much away. But basically, Paul has a friend called Derek, and Derek leaks the video footage of Stanley sending nudes to Paul and Rick. Text messages, voice calls on YouTube. Stanley finds it. They blame it on Derek. And then there's a huge plot twist where Derek is actually Pete's son. And the first relationship and Rick, the son, actually know each other. And it's a funny situation. Pete's like, pick me, Stanley. And Rick's like, no, pick me. You only can pick one of us. And Stanley's made to choose, like, who does he love more? His previous lover or his current lover, Rick. Oh, and it just gets extremely fucked up. And that's not even the best part. But the point is, what I'm trying to make is, even though it's a funny troll, and, like, I do get it, it's hilarious, and you're making fun of the guy, you're giving the guy a reason to live, I guess. And I know Stanley died recently, but I'm worried that Stanley died happy. Stanley was a bad man. I feel like he may have molested a child during his life. He talks about the children in his building that live, like, next door, because he lives in, like, a flat. One of the kids comes over and helps Stanley around the house. And I'm concerned for that kid. Like, he may have been molested. He may have been... Even if Stanley thought about molesting him and kind of planned it, that's still pretty fucked up, and that makes him a bad person. But, like, Stanley has the capability of, like, really hurting a child. And the fact that he may have died with a smile on his face saying, I found my grandson, my son, I had these people that cared about me, we were in love. I'm sad I didn't meet them, because he obviously didn't meet Crestfallen and Amber, because he can't, but obviously he wanted to meet these characters. But I'm worried he died kind of happy. And this is the whole trolling and reality thing I'm trying to talk about, is that the community might be making the predators ultimately feel better rather than worse. And that's kind of like for both of us, being the community and the predator, both benefit from this trolling ultimately. Which is what? Do you think that's a bad thing? do you think it's bad that if we troll someone, they kind of feel good about it because they think they're in a relationship and this and that, and we get an entire, voice recording, phone conversation surrounding this trolling and this conversation? Because at the end of the day, is it better for someone to live in a reality that's actually happier and makes them enjoy life more? For example, Stanley, he had no one who cared about him. The church he was from actually Googled his name, and probably fortunately they found out about his sting and everything he'd been involved in, and they kind of disowned him, and they didn't want him in the church anymore. So he was down and out. His family didn't talk to him. Stanley had nothing. And this false reality came along about grandchildren and sons and Pete and his lovers and all this, and he was happy. So I'm really torn. Like, I want the trolling to occur, but I don't want the predator to be in a situation that puts them at a greater happiness and a level of enjoyment and a level of just bliss that wasn't there before the trolling. I don't necessarily agree with that. And do I want the trolling to put Stanley in pain and make him upset only? Maybe not. I don't want that either. So that's why I've been sitting here just really thinking about, where do we draw the line with trolling? Should it make the predator feel bad? Should it make the predator feel good and happy? Do we have a right to make someone feel bad? Do we have a right to make a false reality that makes the predator ignorant, oblivious, and enjoy life, but in the same time be living in a false delusional reality? I don't know. All I know is, unless I'm pretty sure I heard the last call when Stanley was just talking to Pete. And Stanley just, talked about how much he loved Pete, and he sounded kind of happy. He had someone to talk to, and no, I'm not being like an ageist or anything here, but older people just like talking. They like talking to people and having someone there for them. And the community gave that to Stanley and made him happy. So that's my stance is kind of blurred on that. And relating back to Lorne here and Ramona, Ramona's kind of doing the same thing. She's giving Lorne that false reality, that happiness that's not real, but it's better than nothing. And is that good? Is that bad? Is it bad to set up a false reality? Because when that crumbles down, it can really damage the person. Does Lorne know Ramona's putting up these calls? Someone has to have told him. What does Tony do? Like, is Tony... I know he's disabled, but surely he can go on YouTube, type in Lorne Armstrong, and see what's going on. If my friend was a sex offender, like, I wouldn't probably... I don't know. I wouldn't disown him as a friend, but, like, I probably wouldn't hang out with him every day. But if my mate was a sex offender on YouTube who was really trolled a lot, kind of like Lorne, I'd be seeing what's going on with them most days. So I'm surprised Tony hasn't said, dude, your girlfriend, Ramona, is fucking putting up those calls. But what's Ramona's game plan? What's her motive? It's kind of a hard thing to say. I think it's to get closure on the whole chat log and to get him to admit responsibility. And when he does, I think Ramona's just going to say, okay, Lorne, I can't be with someone who actually was going to do this with Kayla. I'm leaving you. Bye. It's obvious he did try to molest and ultimately rape a 13-year-old girl. But I think she wanted to get that out of him. And he kind of did with the whole condom thing, and again, he kind of backed away and didn't in the end too. So he didn't really say anything. The whole doctor thing's a troll. So she's trolling to a degree, okay? There is no doctor, I do believe. I'm like 99% sure because they named the doctor DJ or something along the lines of Derek. So it's got to be a made up doctor. But she doesn't like to admit whether she has feelings for him or not. And that's really odd. Just say it. Just Sam Pendleton was saying, is it real? Is what you experience love or is it a false love? And she's like, no, no comment, no comment. Just say it. I hate this sense of superiority held over us by certain members of the community. You're a nobody. Like seriously, like we're all nobodies. Just saying, like we're just all average people trying to appease our love for To Catch a Predator and not love for Lorne Armstrong, but just interest in him. And we've had help from great people. Ember's great. But at the end of the day, no one's better than anyone else in the community. And just lay it on us. You've gone on Codcast. Obviously, you're a troll. It's not like Lorne's going to listen to it and say, oh, you know, he might. Lorne's that dumb. He may listen to that Codcast and say, well, she didn't say she doesn't love me, so it may still be love. Possibly, but come on. If Lorne sees you chatting with Ember on Codcast about everything and leaking the calls, I think he's going to figure out the relationship's a fake, okay? So maybe next month she'll go on Codcast 12 and say, no, I was trolling, I never loved him, and start laughing. Like, I can completely see that happening, but at the same time, I feel like it's not going to happen. Whatever this troll is, whatever's going on, it's going to end in a climactic finish. And I just can't see what it is. I'm not 100% sure. I've got another theory about who Ramona could possibly be. And I kind of first brought this up with Mike V and Adam and Andy. And Adam seemed to, and also Chris, not sure. I'm subscribed to Chris. I'm not 100% sure who he is, but I brought this up, and they kind of, and Andy didn't like it at all. He's saying I was winding him up. It's just a theory, just something I was putting out there. Adam kind of liked it. He thought it was an interesting conspiracy as to who Ramona was. Mike V kind of thought it was interesting too. I think Ramona is someone close to Lorne, possibly. Someone who wants to help him, someone who wants to get back at Ember, get back at Andy, even Joey, for even me maybe. Nah, they don't know who I am. They want to get back at them and Nathaniel, but Nathaniel's not around. This person, Ramona, wants to get back at the community for what they've done to her friend Lorne. Now, that would mean that the whole 2-hour conversation and all those phone calls that are leaked are staged. Now, is Lorne capable of staging a conversation for 2 hours? He's just acting as himself. But even doing that, it's quite hard. It's quite hard to act as yourself because he does cry. He talks about, sexual things. He talks about abuse. He does talk even about Kayla, and he doesn't like doing that. So that gives me reason to believe that Lorne himself isn't even in on this ploy. This Ramona girl is a very dear friend, kind of close to Lorne, who's trying to help him out. And there's only a few people who that could be. It could be Lorne's sister using a voice changer or something. And this, just hear me out here, okay? That would bring up the question that obviously Lorne's sister wouldn't want to engage in all this work with Lorne, okay? It's pretty fucked up. Imagine talking to your brother if you were a girl, the sister of this person. Imagine talking to your brother about, sex all the time, seeing his asshole, crying from him, talking about the sting, relationship. It's a pretty fucked up thing to do, okay? But at the same time, you could be helping your brother get leverage over these people in the community of TCAP, gain leverage over them, maybe get addresses and things like this, and help your family member out. Um, and think about it this way. Oh, what was that? Just heard a bang outside. Um, because Ramona is kind of infiltrating the To Catch a Predator community. She's come out of nowhere. She's trying to build rapport with, Amber, Joey, Sam, and I think it's working. Like, because Joey and Amber and Andy, they like Ramona. They kind of find her a bit odd at stages, I think, but she's building that rapport and she's getting in there. And I know Crestfallen and Amber are really close to the point where I think they know a lot about each other, even maybe where they're from, where they live. Ramona, I think, is trying to get to that stage where she knows a lot about Ember and other To Catch a Predator content creators. And once that is gained, I think she's going to lay it on Lorne possibly. And then Lorne will have this information. Because Lorne said in one of his calls, it was pretty confronting and I found it kind of threatening. But he said something, one day I will be face to face with Ember. And it was a kind of violent tone he was bringing out. And if I was Ember, I wouldn't want to be face to face with Lorne. She's got children, she's got a husband who loves her, she's got a life, and Lorne's a sex offender who's been trolled by her continuously, and he could do some harm. So I wouldn't want him gaining any information on that. So if Ember's listening, just be careful with this Ramona chick. 9 times out of 10, she's a troll, but that 1 time out of 10, something fucked up's going on. Who else could Ramona be? She could be a friend of Lorne, who's just there, kind of, just trying to help him out. Again, 8 months talking to him with Lorne, thinking she's his girlfriend, and him sending asshole pics and talking sexually to her about the sting, about him, about everything for days, hours per day. That's a lot of work to put up with to help a guy who's a sex offender and a low life like Lorne. So it seems very unrealistic, but possible. If you love this guy and you want to help him out, like at the end of the day, the whole thing's fake. But then Ramona will give this information to Lorne that will kind of sweeten that. The other thing is, Lorne may be in on it. Okay, Lorne may be able to act as himself. That sounds kind of funny, but when you try and act like yourself, it kind of shines through and cracks show, and you make mistakes, and you can see the person acting. You can see them trying to act as themselves, and something's not going on. They don't seem like them. Mistakes are made, but Lorne only really has to just cry, talk about the sting, like pretend fight for 2.5 hours with this person who may be his sister and maybe his friend. Get Ramona to infiltrate the TCAP community, and ultimately he'll get names, addresses, things he wants that he can use as a leverage. It's not a lot of work, and we don't know Lorne's capabilities. He's a manipulative person. He may be manipulating us with this whole Ramona thing. Now, there has been a bit of defamation that has occurred with Lorne with these calls. I mean, he seems like a pervert. The whole Kayla condom thing. It was kind of uncomfortable for him if he was acting. But at the end of the day, there's so much out there about him. He was on To Catch a Predator live, or live TV, whatever, not live, but he was on TV, arrested, crying. The guy has been humiliated to an extent that a little bit more humiliation just to get a few addresses, just to get a few names of To Catch a Predator content creators is nothing. That's what you don't understand. That's why everyone was laughing at me when I was bringing up this theory, because it could be possible. He could do that. And this is where I think the whole voice changer idea came from, because Nathaniel, I do believe he thinks Nathaniel is still around. Um, but the whole voice changer thing, because I think Ramona may be using a voice changer. Now, I'm starting to sound like a lord, okay? But hear me out. Voice changes are a thing, okay? If it's Lorne's sister in the phone call, or one of Lorne's friends who's an older person, obviously, and Ramona's voice does sound a bit funny. They may be using a microphone with an online voice changer or just offline voice changer hooked up to it, making the voice distorted to some extent to make Ramona sound younger. And Lorne's like, okay, yep, do that. We'll do these fake calls. We'll put them out there. You become friends with Amber. Find out info on her, okay? Next thing you know, Nathaniel, they do the prank calls. Because don't forget, they've been talking since November, Ramona. Like, there's calls dating back a couple months. It's a process, this ploy they've got, this scheme. Next thing you know, Amber comes in with Nathaniel and does that whole phone call thing. And Lorne, he's been working with these voice changes with Ramona, trying to get her to her voice to sound younger while they do these fake scheme calls between each other. And Lorne's like, hang on, maybe Nathaniel's using one of these voice changes, because we don't know where this idea of voice changing came from. It's just weird as fuck. So maybe he's doing something like that, and that's where that whole voice changer idea came up with Nathaniel being Natalie. Again, this is 1 times out of 10, 1 in 100 chance of this happening. But I'm just putting it out there because Ramona, we still don't know anything about her. Like, what's going on? What's with this troll? She seems to be doing more good than harm to him at the moment, which really isn't necessarily what a troll does. I mean, she has leaked some calls that are pretty defamatory, and she has done that, but she's giving Lorne a relationship. And you can say, yeah, he cried, the doctor's stressing him out, but relationships do have hardships like that in it generally. So, and it's a long distance one too. Like, long distance relationships aren't all butterflies and happiness. They are pretty tough. So yeah, that might be the case there, but this video's kind of stretched on for a bit now. I think I might end it there. I hope you enjoyed that conspiracy theory I've come up with. Have I got any others? I've had a few theories about different things now and then. I might as well just bring them up now. What else have I had? What is Lorne up to now? I think he's just, trying to rebuild his life at one point. I believe he's got a trailer, but he hasn't got land to put the trailer on. So he's trying to sort that out, move the trailer somewhere to live. Has he got a job? I'm not 100% sure. There may be a audio of Lorne being leaked with Ramona where he calls her the N word, the Nigger word, and Emma was talking about that, but she's not 100% sure. The audio loses clarity, and he may be saying something else that sounds similar to the N word, but that would be very interesting if he called her that. That's like the one thing you don't do if you're dating someone of an African American descent, or just of um, a darker skin color. You don't abuse someone racially that you're in a relationship with. That's a no-go zone, and he did that. So, well, he may have. We don't know. But I think I'm going to call it quits there, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, see ya, boys.